Hey guys, welcome back to Platinum Fishing. My name's James, and today I'm going to show you the difference between a crankbait and a jerkbait. Let's go. In today's video, I really just want to make it simple, the difference between a crankbait and a jerkbait. I think for beginner fishermen, maybe into intermediate, maybe even some advanced anglers, there's some confusion about crankbaits versus jerkbaits. Some people think that they're all crankbaits or they're all jerkbaits, and maybe once upon a time they were. Maybe they had called them all crankbaits. I know when I was younger, I didn't know the difference. I think we just called them Rapalas, which is the brand name. All right. Over on this side, we have crankbaits, and over on this side, we have jerkbaits. The easiest way to tell the difference between a crankbait and a jerkbait is crankbaits are generally fat and short, like that. All right? They're generally short and fat. You know, some of them start to get a little longer, but you can see it still has some thickness to it, and that's a crankbait as well. On the other hand, jerkbaits, long and skinny. That's the easiest way to tell the difference. It's pretty simple. And a crankbait, generally, you're casting it out, and I'll kind of give a little example here. And when I get fishing in the spring, I'll actually do some videos of me actually fishing. But a crankbait, the reason they call it a crankbait is because you're just cranking it in. You're just reeling it in. And different speeds, you might do faster, you might slow it down, you might pause, but generally you're kind of going to keep a consistent speed and you're cranking it in. That's why they call it a crankbait. A jerkbait, on the other hand, I mean, you can crank in a jerkbait as well, but they're more effective actually jerking them, twitching them. So just reeling, giving it a twitch or two, reeling, twitch, and generally you're really just reeling in your slack, and then when your line's caught up to the bait, you're twitching it, and then reeling and twitching. And that's the most effective way to use a jerkbait. So jerkbait, you're jerking it. Crankbait, you're cranking it. Pretty easy. Crankbait, short and fat. Jerkbait, long and slender. It's that easy. Now, there's some differences in, for example, let's talk about the crankbaits for a minute. There's lipless crankbaits, like that. See how on this one, there's a lip or a bill there, right? That's what kind of makes it go down a bit, and it makes it, kind of go back and forth a little bit too, but it generally gets it down. The lipless crankbait, it still goes like that in the water, but this just sinks by itself. You got to figure out kind of the depth, and then you start to crank it in. There's definitely ones with longer bills for the crankbaits, and generally those will go down deeper. And there's ones with a shorter bill, and I mean this one here probably only goes 1 to 3 feet. It's not very long. There's square bill. Like that, you can see the bill on it is square. And then there's rounded bills, like that. It just gives it a little bit of a different swimming motion. The square bills kind of wobble a little bit more, and the regular bills kind of just go back and forth. They wobble a little bit, but you're just going to get different fishing action, and it's kind of up to you to mess around with different lures and crankbaits and see what's working for you. There's no right or wrong way, really. You find your own way, and you find what works for you. For the jerkbaits, I really kind of categorize it in 3 different categories. You have your floating jerkbaits. So the floating jerkbait will stay on the top, and then when you start to pull it, it just kind of it'll dart down a little bit, and then when it goes down, I mean, there's ones that go down a little further, but they'll start to float back up. Right when you get down, it'll float back up. Then you start doing it again, it darts, and then it floats back up, and away you go. There's suspending jerkbaits. So basically, the suspending jerkbaits, once they get down, they actually just suspend. They stay there. It won't sink. It won't float up. So the suspending are really cool. They're probably my favorite. They're just a lot of fun to fish. You know, you go like, you know, you do your thing, and then they're just sitting there. And a lot of times I find you get your strikes when you're not jerking the bait. It's just when it's sitting there for a sec. And they work really well for me. And the next one is sinking. I think Rapala calls them countdown, or maybe countdown's a thing for all of them, but I call them sinking. And the sinking ones, basically you throw them out and they'll sink, and then you start reeling them in. Like they'll sink kind of as you reel it in. So that's in a nutshell the differences. I'm sure there's way more differences, you know, that we could get into, but those are your basics. Okay, so for a crankbait, you're just going to cast it out. You're just going to reel it in. I think it's important for the crankbait to keep a consistent speed most of the time. And, you know, if the fish aren't hitting it, you might want to speed it up, or you might want to slow it down. And sometimes you can kind of mess around a little bit, do your own thing, you know, alternate from going fast and slowing down. And, you know, if you're trying to cover a lot of water, some guys will just burn them, like go really fast and just burn, cast, burn. Find what's working for the situation that day. It all depends on, you know, the water temperature, the water clarity. It just depends on so many different variables. And you want to try different things. For a jerkbait, you just, you cast it out, and really what you're doing is you're just twitching it, right? You might want to just do, a few twitches like that, or just the odd little twitch, and then you're going to get some slack in the line. You'll see it. Just watch the slack in the water. Reel in your slack until it's tight again. And you don't really want to reel in the lure. I mean, you can a little bit, and then once the slack is tight, you start giving it a jerk again, reel it, jerk it. However, there's lots of different ways. Some guys go really aggressive. Some guys just do little ones. Again, whatever works. And again, I mean, you can just crank in a jerkbait if you want. It'll work. You'll catch fish, but you're going to catch a lot more fish when you're jerking it. That's why they call it a jerkbait. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor and like and subscribe, and also hit that bell icon so it notifies you when new videos are posted. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Take care.